For the next panel on private versus public policy
Hello.
direction for public health. Uh, we are
Hello.
by Rohan Kochar, Director of Public Policy. Scotch, Dr. Ajay Shah, who is an independent scholar. He has held positions at the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, Indira Gandhi Institute for Development Research, Department of Economic Affairs, as well as NIPFP. Does academic and policy-oriented research on India at the intersection of economics, law, and public administration. His second book, co-authored with Vijay Kelkar, In Service of the Republic, The Art and Science of Economic Policy, was published in 2019. His area of focus are macroeconomics, finance, health, and technology policy. Author columnist Dr. Ashwani Mahajan is the national co-convener of Swadeshi Jagran Manch, teaches at Delhi University. He's been instrumental in advocating for the evolution of economic policies. His interventions include withdrawal of controversial ordinance on land acquisition, getting field trials of GM crops policy revisited, FDI policy of the government, especially retail, trade, and e-commerce. Ms. Nita Tyagi, core volunteer healthcare at iSpurt Foundation, is passionate about addressing the hard-to-crack societal challenges that the population scale through the use of digital platforms and collaborations across Samaj, Sarkar, Bazaar. 27 years of varied experience as an entrepreneur, executive roles in global organizations and in the social sector, working with the government on population scale transformation programs. She's currently working in the field of digital health. So with this, I hand over to Rohan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dhanjal, for taking up the brief introductions in the interest of time. Before we jump into the panel, one of our guests today, Dr. Ajay Shah, describes the 7 stages of the policy pipeline as follows in his book. He says, stage 1 is the establishment of a statistical system. Stage 2 is descriptive and causal research. Stage 3 is inventing and proposing new policy solutions. Stage 4 is public-spirited debate. Stage 5 is internal government decision-making. Stage 6 is the translation of policy documents into legal instruments. And stage 7 is the construction of state capacity and administrative structures to enforce the law. Health policy, in particular, is a tough call. Not only is India constrained by a low spending on healthcare as a percentage of GDP, there is also thought that needs to be given towards market failure and state capacity from first principles, which are required in public health as well as healthcare. There are market failures in public goods and externalities that essentially constitute public health. Equally, there are market failures in terms of asymmetric information and market power that shape healthcare. More recently, the debate has become about whether we need more state or less state intervention in public health and healthcare. There is a lot of interest in technological fixes, all the way from the National Digital Health Blueprint to artificial intelligence, which can potentially supplement the work of doctors. This panel tries to put the role of the state, the private sector, and digital technologies in context such that India may finally get a winning policy prescription for health that is widely acceptable. With that, I'd like to invite Dr. Ajay Shah for his talk on private and public sector in public health and healthcare.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, great. So I'd like to talk for a few minutes, and it is not my intent to do complicated bhashan. I'd much rather be in conversation and hear from the others and do more of a discussion. Okay, so I want to make 5 points today. Okay, the first point is that there is an absolutely fundamental principle in the field of health, which is that prevention is better than cure. Okay, so no matter what all of us may try to do to help a person who has dengue fever, the best situation in the world possible is the person never got dengue fever in the first place. So no matter what we may do to deal with a person who's had a bad automobile accident, has broken bones, I have had a near-death automobile accident. No matter how much you do in terms of the healthcare, it is 1,000 times better if the event had never happened in the first place. So it's just a basic common sense and what I may say is almost a moral position. that prevention is better than cure. The best of all worlds is that people should not get sick. Okay, after people get sick, we have to deal with it, but prevention is better than cure. My second claim is a fundamental principle of public policy. Government should do things that people cannot do by themselves. Okay, government should not do things where government is doing it a little bit better than what people do. Government should do the things that people cannot do by themselves. That's where there's a complete gap in society if the government is not there and is not doing the things. I am, of course, this is a quotation that I have stolen. It is a line originally from John Maynard Keynes, but it is simple blinding idea that if the government does not build the military forces, no private people can ever do it by themselves. So you need a government. Only the government will run Ministry of Defense. Only the government will stand in Ladakh and be there to try to push back any Chinese soldiers who come into India. This is something that private people can never do. So this is a simple organizing principle that do the things that the private sector, that private people simply cannot solve by themselves. And that brings me to point number 3. This is the definition of public health. What is public health? Public health is the class of actions by government that operate upon the population at large and not operate upon an individual. Okay, so think of a policy action, think of an action by the government that targets a population and not an individual. That is public health. So let me run through some examples. Only the government can get mosquitoes under control. Okay, we as individuals, we can put a net on our doors, we can put good night in our houses, we can put DEET on our skin, but basically we cannot transform the amount of mosquitoes that are present in the country. Okay, whereas public health can go after mosquitoes systematically. So as an example, in the American South, by the late 19th century, within 30 years after the Civil War, mosquitoes had basically been eradicated. So even though the weather is quite similar to that of North India in many ways, there were no mosquitoes and malaria was conquered because the mosquitoes were controlled. This is something only public health authorities can do. No individual can eradicate mosquitoes. My second example is road safety. We in India are building a lot of roads, but frankly, our road engineering is not good and there are many other problems and our roads are phenomenally unsafe. So roughly speaking, the probability of having an accident per kilometer of driving in India is about 20 times higher or 40 times higher than what is found in the UK. This is again something that no individual can solve. Only the government can solve. It's only the government that can change road engineering, can make sure you enforce against drunk driving, can make sure that people who drive have a driver's license, can generate exam before licensing of good quality, and so on. This is something only a government can do. And mosquitoes, road safety, these are actions by a government that operate upon an entire population. They are not a treatment for one person. They are a treatment for the population. These are public health actions. Okay, let me show you a third example. This is contact tracing. Okay, so what is contact tracing? I test positive in COVID-19. Now we need a skilled health worker to sit with me and discuss my last 1 week, 10 days. Where was I? What were all the places I spent a lot of time? Who were the people I spoke with? Okay, make a list of the 10, 20 people that I was in contact with, and then go reach out to each of those people, get them tested, get them quarantined. Okay, if some of them test positive, then apply the same contact tracing to each of them. Contact tracing is a complex procedure. Roughly speaking, to do COVID-19 contact tracing in a country the size of India would require about 5 lakh field employees to do these sophisticated conversations. This is something only a government can do. No private person will ever do contact tracing. And my fourth example is air quality. North India has shaped up as one of the world's worst air quality crises. With the Vindhyas on one side and the Himalayas on the other side, North India is like a bowl. So every emission of solid particulate matter that is put up into the air tends to linger in the air. And through the long winter, there's not much of a wind. So we've got pretty much the world's worst public health crisis in terms of the air quality. And note that people do a lot of shouting in Delhi, but actually this problem is all over North India. It's not urban, it's rural, it is everybody. Everybody in the Hindi heartland is suffering from the air quality problem. And again, this is an example which can only be attacked by the government. No private person can solve air quality. So public health is defined as actions that operate upon the population. They're not about treating one person. It comes back to prevention is better than cure. By controlling mosquitoes, we will fight malaria and dengue at a population level. It's not a treatment we're giving one person. By improving road safety, we will cut down on the lakhs and lakhs of horrible road accidents that are happening all over the country. By creating contact tracing infrastructure, institutional capacity, we would have changed the trajectory of an epidemic like COVID-19. By doing something about air quality, we will make a difference to one of the biggest health crises of the whole world, which is the problem of air quality in the Hindi heartland in the entire North India. And my big idea is that we in India are simply doing too little on public health. Public health is supremely important. It can only be done by the government, and we are just not doing it. When you think of healthcare, it is much more private goods. I go to a dentist, I sit on the chair, I solve my toothache, I feel better. In the jargon, it is rival and excludable. It is rival because while I am sitting on the chair, you cannot sit on the chair. It is excludable because you can put a lock on the door of the dentist clinic and people cannot enter that clinic. Okay, so this is not a public good, it is a private good. Healthcare is much more private goods. And also the problem of prevention and cure, that you should be doing more prevention so that you don't have to fight so much in cure. And also government should do things that people cannot do by themselves. All these reasons suggest that we should de-emphasize healthcare. We should be doing public health. Public health is fundamentally different from healthcare. I have a simple intuition. Healthcare tends to be dominated by doctors. Public health needs to be dominated by many different kinds of people. So for example, you want to do mosquito control. It's entomologists that know how to control mosquitoes. You want to do road safety. It is civil engineers and public administration people who know how to control road safety. You want to do contact tracing. It is really a management problem. It's not a doctor's problem. You want to do air quality. It is environmental science. It is agriculture. It is everything other than doctors. So again, one more useful thumb rule. We should do prevention, not cure. Government should do the things that people cannot do. Public health is actions that operate upon the population. And most of public health actions involve people who are not doctors. They involve people who will solve public health problems at the foundation. That brings me to point number 4. Very often there is discussion about money. Interestingly enough, public health is not a money problem. It's a management problem. So you can achieve very high quality of public health in country after country all across the world. And the amount of money is really small. It is healthcare that is killing in terms of the expenditure. Public health is really not very expensive. To solve mosquitoes, road safety, contact tracing, air quality, these kinds of things, you don't need a lot of money. By the time you start doing healthcare, it is horrendously expensive. So in public health, it's a management problem. We need to do policy. We need to do public administration. Health is too important to be left to the doctors. We have to go solve health problems at the core so that people will get sick to a lesser extent. This is my main story that I wanted to tell. The organizers said, should I say something about computer technology? I have to scratch my head, and I am not very interested or excited in what you can do with computer technology. The first is our usual catechism in the field of public administration, or more generally management. Okay, think of a company. If there's a company which is going to do an organizational transformation using technology, you're going to do a large business process reengineering. Above all, this needs thinking, modification of the business model, decision making, leadership, planning, execution by the leadership of the company. Okay, and then by the way, yeah, we'll get lots of computers, we'll get CPUs, we'll get applications. All that is trivial. This is India. We have tons of computer engineers. We will be able to solve that. The bottleneck is the accountability of the leadership. It is the management. It is fundamental redesign of the business process. It is leadership from the top. It is not about the engineering. In the last 20 years, we have put millions of CPUs into Indian public administration. Generally, it's not worked too well. Problem number 2 with computer technology is the privacy problem. There is now a significant backlash all over India about concerns about data, about individuals that is being taken into government systems by the government with really, frankly, no checks and balances. More and more, many people are now thinking and doing that I'm better off using cash rather than using an electronic transaction because there is too much tracing by the government. There is unchecked violations of the privacy of individuals when we are working in the computerized world, and This is a fundamental threat. It may take us 5, 10, 20 years to build our liberal democracy so that we get protections against the use of data by the government, and then we can think more about these things. And as an example, consider Arogya Setu. What we needed was contact tracing. We tried to build an app. Okay, we saw it doesn't work. What you need is the management push of doing contact tracing. It is complicated. It requires management to organize 5 lakh people and do contact tracing. In that, can an app help? Maybe. It's a minor thing. Neither here nor there. There are countries that do great contact tracing without any app, and it works fine. There are countries where you put all the technology in the world, like India and Arogya Setu, and you don't get contact tracing. So, I always like to remind everybody, the British conquered India without email. Okay, the British conquered cholera in London without a single transistor in the picture. So there are means and ends. Fundamentally, India has a public policy and a public administration problem. We should focus ourselves on that. Yeah, a couple of CPUs, a couple of programs will help in that. Luckily, we are India. There's tons of capability in building stuff, but it's not the bottleneck. The bottleneck is management. It is public policy. It is accountability. It is how we build the Indian state. That's where we are stuck. Thank you.
Right.
This is all I
Thank you very much, Dr. Shah, for those pertinent observations from public administration and policy science disciplines. Our next speaker, Dr. Ashwani Mahajan, as national co-convener of the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, has been instrumental in advocating for the effective evolution of several economic policies. His policy interventions include the withdrawal of the controversial ordinance on land acquisition, getting field trials of GM crops policy revisited, the FDI policy of the government, especially on retail, trade, and e-commerce. May I please invite Dr. Ashwani Mahajan for his talk on public health and public sector.
Thank you, Rohan. It is really my privilege to be here with Dr. Rajesh Shah and Ms. Tyagi. I must say, in fact, I would have been very happy had the things been so simple as Dr. Rajesh Shah has described them. In economics also, we keep teaching about the public goods, excludability and other things. But to my mind, things are not so simple when we come to the public health. If we have a look at, had we been living in a developed country like US, definitely we could have seen the public health with a different perspective. But when we are in India, if you see the under 5 mortality is still 74 at all India level, and SC, ST is much higher. ST is 96, non-SC, ST, OBC, they are 59. If we have a look at the immunization, as Dr. Shah was telling us, ST has got 31.3%, whereas the all India figure is 43.5. UP has got 23. If we have a look at the hospitalization rate, again it has been increasing from 15% to 46%, and the hospitalization charges are increasing like anything. If you see between 2004 and 2014, in rural areas, hospitalization expenses have increased from 6,225 rupees to about 16,956. In urban areas, it's even more. Looking at all these things, and you would appreciate that the public sector is hardly providing outpatient services to about 25%, inpatient services to about 40%, 12% of the in the rural areas are really getting some public funded insurance. looking at all these things and looking at the fact that the kind of purchasing power with our majority of our population, if we look at the census data, social and economic census, which came after 2011 census, we find that nearly 95% of the rural households have got less than 10,000 rupees income by the highest income earner, and 75% had less than 5,000. So looking at the cost of provision of health services, I fail to understand how our majority population will be able to get the treatment done, whether it is outpatient or it is inpatient or whatever. You see, and there is enough of private sector. There's enough of private sector in public health. In health services, if you have a look at the production, almost the whole medicine production comes from the drugs, comes from the private sector. And if we have a look at the corporate hospitals, we have a whole range of corporate hospitals, and a lot of private participation is there in public health. But nevertheless, when it comes to provision of health services to our masses, the same economic principles of excludability and other things do not really apply to them. And what we have to do is, you have to look at and to remind the viewers and those who are participating in this seminar, I would like to remind them a famous statement from our former Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. He said that every year 10% of our people go below poverty line just for the reason that they borrow money to treat their nears and dears. So the kind of expense, and we know out of the total expenditure, 2/3 of the expenditure comes from the out-of-pocket expenses. So therefore, all these figures given, there is an underlying need for the government to participate more and more in the public health. And there were many people, those who were talking about even this vaccination program, which has started today, should be handed over to the private sector. But there are many issues involved, and we see how efficiently the public sector, the overall, with the little bit help of the private sector, we are now going to have the largest vaccination program of the world, with the help of the government, with the very little facilities we have. I understand, and I appreciate that, yes, there are certain things which must be done by the government, but at the same time, government can't wash its hands away from provision of public health to the poorest of the poor. And the figures are not mine; these are the figures which are actual. Had we been living in US or Europe or other countries where the per capita income is around $40,000, we could have been better off by handing it over to the private sector. We understand private sector does the things more efficiently. Yes, the cost is less, but the public sector is very much required. Now coming to the Indian scenario, so far as the government, the central government, which has in the last 3 years they have come out with a wonderful initiative of Ayushman Bharat. Yes, we need more and more facilities to be developed. As I have already said, that yes, private sector can do it more efficiently. It's in education as well, not just public health, it's in education also. We need more and more services being provided by the private sector. However, the regulation of the private sector is must. Today only I was reading an article by one of my friends who happens to be the IMA, the past president of IMA. He had advocated for the private sector participation. Yes, private sector can do things. We should encourage more and more private players to be there in the public health. However, the regulation of those, because ultimately, when it is the general poor population, the ultimate the burden would be on the government. I would say ultimate expenditure has to be borne by the government, as it is doing in case of Ayushman Bharat, and government has said that it is going to now make it universal. So therefore, without regulation of the private sector, we can't really achieve that. In the initial stages when Ayushman Bharat scheme came, my only hitch was that this would lead to more and more participation and more fleecing by insurance companies. But the government has done good thing. In most of the cases, they have come out with a trust model, and that is really helping the government to reduce their cost on the Ayushman Bharat scheme. All said and done, I would say that yes, I'm not against private sector. In fact, the organization from which I come, we are all for the private sector participation in all fields. However, whenever there is interest of the general masses, to poor masses, we can't allow them to fleece the masses. And in fact, we have seen in the past how insurance companies have started disrespecting the private hospitals' bills, and we have seen the people at last suffering. Therefore, when Honorable Supreme Court has also suggested the government to regulate the charges being made by the private hospitals, we have seen in the past also our drug regulator had regulated the prices of the essential drugs. In Ayushman Bharat scheme, many of the charges have also been regulated. There is more and more need to regulate the private sector and at the same time encourage them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mahajan, for those observations on a responsible collaboration between the public sector as well as the private sector as far as public health and healthcare are concerned. Our next speaker, Ms. Neeta Tyagi, has approximately 3 decades worth of experience as an entrepreneur in executive roles in global organizations, as well as the social sector, working with governments on population scale transformational programs. She's currently engaged with 2 national level digital programs with eGov Foundation on Urban Governance as the engagement lead for the state of Uttarakhand, as well as with iSpirits Foundation on their healthcare digital platform. I'd like to invite you, Ms. Tyagi, and as a prelim to your talk, I would also like to ask you, do you share Dr. Shah's lack of enthusiasm for data and digital technologies in health?
I would start by saying, I think, first that it's an honor for me to share this stage with Dr. Shah and Dr. Mahajan. And I hope I can earnestly hope that I can make a befitting contribution. But though I agree with a lot of points that both Dr. Mahajan and Dr. Shah have said, but I think definitely in my talk, I'll be bringing out my enthusiasm, for the digital technologies. I think that's what, I'll be doing today. And I'll be talking more from my experience over the last 3 years, in this area. I don't have a very deep academic knowledge, I must sort of admit.
Absolutely. The floor is yours, madam.
So I must say that I got involved on healthcare track in 2017. And, the first document I read was a national health policy document, which articulated, this connection between the economic growth of the nation and health of the citizens. A colleague helped me understand this better, saying, imagine, the country is like a family. And, what if the earning member of the family falls gravely sick? And this immediately actually took me back to the 90s, when I can luckily call it a near real experience and not the real experience. My father was a dental surgeon, sole earning member of the family for a joint family. He lost his eyesight, due to TB of retina. And a private practitioner is no less than a daily wage earner, but in this case, probably, health shocks with deeper, shock absorbers. But the incident did help internalize that, what such shocks can do to poor socioeconomic corridors, how they can play havoc with just basic aspirations of survival. And it helped me internalize, these statistics of 60 million people going below poverty line, every year due to health shocks. And with COVID in 2020, I think it has brought closer the horror of the potential of, drowning a nation's aspirations, wanting to be a $5 trillion economy without health and key economic risks covered by nearly 70 to 80% population. So healthcare problem, public health, they've always been huge and complex, and now it is looming large in our face. To ascertain the role of key players of the ecosystem, now whether it is the state or the private sector in this context, and when I say private sector, I mean all medical, the insurers, the enterprises, and the entrepreneurs. The next logical point of discussion in my mind is who is losing their sleep over this dream going awry? Who is accountable enough to realize that if you do it yourself and you can't do it well, it's okay to get it done and achieve the desired outcomes? Then who has the capability to deliver, but why would they do it? So and also I think now coming back to, what you just said, to Dr. Shah's point, post-COVID and even before, do we have the luxury to just make incremental changes? Or does it call for a leapfrogging to catalyze, problem solving at exponential rate by engaging various stakeholders? So I feel it is a very humbling experience to accept that one person, one entity, one of anything cannot solve these hard societal problems we have at hand. And I think both Dr. Shah and Dr. Mahajan have kind of, alluded to that. So I'm just putting forth my statement that neither 100% state nor 100% private or being in the fringes is a healthy option for India. India has traversed that trajectory, from 90 to 95% state, whether for public health or healthcare, at the time of independence, to 75 to 80% healthcare in private over the 70 odd years. And I must say that the intent of the state to provide equitable healthcare is unquestionable, right? I mean, I have had the opportunity over the last 3 years to work with the ministry, with the states, with the on-ground, workers, and I've seen the reach of the PHCs. I've seen the intent of the top bureaucracy. It's absolutely unquestionable. But then capacity issues, and the underspend led to the breakdown. Now, this space over the years was taken up by the private sector, who came to the rescue to provide access. But then came the accusations of commercialization, as rightfully reflected in the high cost, increasing cost of care, and it being restricted only to those who can pay, creating, inequities. And again, see, I have spent my time growing years in a clinic, and, I've seen the treatment being driven. Medicine is the noblest profession, whether public, whether private, and I've seen treatments given free to those who could not afford. But that's not something, enough for the country. So nevertheless, I think outcome is in front of us. We have doctor ratio 1 to 1600, 60% of which is concentrated in urban. Less than half the country, some say only 20 to 30%, has health insurance. And even if they do, it is inadequate because we have the out-of-pocket expenses running more than 70%. So whatever role one has played so far, there are market failures and externalities, and they further strengthen the information asymmetry prevalent in the healthcare. So at this point, I certainly do, and I also do not wish to undermine. I'm making this point because, there are a lot of non-government bodies, right? There are a lot of corporations, that a lot of philanthropy organizations who have tried to, make a difference. I had the opportunity to again work with a ministry for a project supported by a corporate, and a trust. But to give you an example, and this is no exaggeration, the amount of effort that was put in just to get a list of health workers at the front, it frittered away the entire, efforts, and that's what makes it really unsustainable, this duplicated efforts, and it ends up creating more silos. So without being overly prescriptive, I think what I would say is the need of the hour is then to play to each strengths, and I think Dr. Shah and Dr. Mahajan very much alluded to that, but I would say design a mindful collaboration, right? Mindful collaboration is really, you have to see who is good at what, etc. And I think my starting point would be with the state, because state holds the intent intact, right? Imagine the state miraculously finds a new age capability to get, I'm rather tempted to say mastermind, the private players to inbuild social equity as an outcome in everything that they do, without the need to lecture them on equity principles, and without, and while the state's concern for unbridled, commercialization is very valid, but I think being squeamish about profit making is not. So imagine a world where the state can achieve its goal of social equity through participation of private, public, non-government sector by miraculously making all 1.3 billion Indians as power players, all equally lucrative and served quality services. Now, I'll come to the digital part of it, because we can see some parallels in the world of finance. Reduction in the cost of eKYC actually took banking to the doorsteps of poorest of the households under Jan Dhan scheme. Interoperability in finance is aligning all stakeholders, and it is enhancing the user experience. We can all see through UPI. I do acknowledge health is more complex than a simple transaction, but therefore it needs a little more mindful, collaboration than finance. So this brings into the conversation the role of technology. And I don't want to talk much on it, though I think I would say that in the last 2 years, we have seen how the conversations have steadily built up. There's this journey from National Health Stack 2018 to National Digital Health Blueprint in 2019, and the National Digital Health Mission in 2020, which aims to build foundational blocks that provide level playing field to all participants and allow them to focus on problem solving without duplicating effort. A great example of this is, and everyone would have noticed this, how it has changed over the years, how we travel, how we stay. I'm talking of Airbnb, Ubers, etc., where each of them have actually solved a very particular niche problem without duplicating the efforts of, creating payment options, gateways, and GPS, etc., etc. And talking of interoperability, I just want to say a point that it's not just textbook. I think, and I had the opportunity to lead this project since 2018 with National Cancer Grid and ThoughtWorks as partner, where we have successfully put forth open source code solution around interoperability picked up by National Digital Health Mission. So I sincerely hope that this attempt, unites the efforts of these stakeholders directionally. And then you see, technology alone can't solve the problem without a competent regulator. Again, I agree with Dr. Mahajan when he spoke about the regulation, but I feel technology can give regulator also a complete makeover. What we're talking of is a modern, athletic regulator, which can now focus on, let's say, standards and incentives for them to be adopted, legal frameworks, ensuring that consequence management, is done. So you put energies into strengthening of institutional systems. So it is less seen, but it is more effective. So I just will wind up my argument, conclude it. And I feel the prescription is, and I'll start with the state, is to continue with unadulterated intent, right, which is there. Participate in this mindful collaboration to facilitate build of a digital infrastructure which incentivize all participants to achieve the desired outcomes, right? And for the state to focus its energy to build robust institutions that use technology to facilitate new age regulation, new age monitoring, and just does consequence management. And I think that will really take us, to a place where we haven't been so far in public health and healthcare services. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that excellent address on unadulterated intent and mindful collaboration, Ms. Tyagi. I would like to open up the conversation for discussion, and since we're also a bilingual platform, Dr. Mahajan, जैसा कि Dr. Shah ने कहा कि I hope you'll excuse my oversimplification with the examples of AQI and road safety, जिसका काम उसी को साजे. What do you have to say about this, sir? Do you think the state should only address challenges that it is best placed to address and citizens should be left to their own devices? आपकी क्या राय है इस पे, सर?
मेरा कहना है कि इसके बारे में तो कोई दो राय हो ही नहीं सकती है कि भाई रोड सेफ्टी तो सरकार को ही करनी है, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ट्रेसिंग भी सरकार को ही करनी है. इनका जो अजय जी के बारे में जो कहा उस पर मेरी एक ही आपत्ति है कि हमको सब कुछ प्राइवेट हाथों में नहीं सौंप सकते हैं, क्योंकि जिस प्रकार से हमारे यहाँ असमानताएं हैं, गरीबी है, मात्र 1-1.5% ही लोग हैं जो वास्तव में इन सर्विसेज के लिए पे कर सकते हैं. बाकी 99% लोगों के लिए हमारे पास क्या प्रावधान है? क्या हम मार्केट के ऊपर, बाजार पर क्या इन सब लोगों को छोड़ सकते हैं क्या? अभी जो फार्मर्स एजुटेशन भी चल रही है, उसमें भी यही बात आ रही है ना कि मार्केट के भरोसे पर किसानों को नहीं छोड़ा जा सकता. कहीं ना कहीं लोगों को प्रोटेक्शन देना पड़ेगा. उसी प्रकार से यहाँ पर भी मैंने जितने भी आंकड़े आपको बताए, ये सब सरकारी आंकड़े हैं और नेशनल हेल्थ फैमिली हेल्थ सर्वे से लिए गए हैं. तो इसलिए जो सामने तस्वीर दिखाई दे रही है उसका समाधान करने के लिए ये बात सही है कि टेक्नोलॉजी का भी खासा उपयोग करना पड़ेगा. और हम भारत जो है वो टेक्नोलॉजी में सबसे आगे है. लेकिन मैं नीता जी की उस बात से बिल्कुल सहमत नहीं हूँ कि जो फिलैंथ्रोपिस्ट हैं उनके बारे में जो तस्वीर पेश की जाती है वो अलग है और जो उनकी वास्तविकता है वो अलग है. फिलैंथ्रोपिस्ट के बारे में हमने बहुत सारे, मैं यहाँ पर आप सब लोगों का बहुत समय नहीं लूंगा, फिलैंथ्रोपिस्ट के बारे में हमने बहुत बातें बताई हैं. और जो प्रिवेंशन की बात है जिसमें वो लोग काम कर रहे हैं, मैंने देखा कि अधिकांश उनका जो खर्च है वो किसी और बात पर होता है और एक वर्ष के लिए वो टीकाकरण को वो उसका करते हैं और उसके बाकी आने वाले सालों के लिए उन सब कंपनियों को जिनमें उनके इंटरेस्ट हैं, उन कंपनियों की सेल बढ़ाने के लिए किया जाता है. तो इसलिए हमें इन सब चीजों से अलग हो करके वास्तव में हम अपने ऊपर निर्भर रह करके, आत्मनिर्भर भारत की बात चल रही है, तो हम हेल्थ केयर में भी और डिजिटाइजेशन में भी हम आत्मनिर्भर बनेंगे और हमारे पास पर्याप्त सुविधाएं हैं और अगर कम है तो उनका और विकास किया जा सकता है. फॉर गॉड सेक हमें ये फॉरेन फिलैंथ्रोपिस्ट जो फिलैंथ्रोपी के नाम पर जो बिजनेस कर रहे हैं, हमें उनसे बचना पड़ेगा. Thank you.
Dr. Shah, would you like to comment, sir? You're muted, Dr. Shah.
I do not disagree that there are difficulties in private healthcare and that these need regulation. My research team has done many years of work on figuring out how to do regulation of healthcare. But I think that prevention is more important than cure. So all of us are finite. All of us have resource constraints. All of us have time constraints. If you think of public policy, it is above all about prioritizing, about triaging, about choosing a few battles to pick. In my opinion, the most important battles in India today are in public health. and public health is prevention, not cure. So that's what makes me very excited in terms of my priorities for work, that what can we do so that people get sick less? Because things are very bad once people do get sick.
Absolutely, sir. In fact, there is also a question that we're getting from one of our panelists, Mr. Prem Anand from Apollo Remote Healthcare. The question is, there are good models of PPPs in public health system delivery in the primary, secondary, and tertiary care sectors, including blending with technology to find solutions for inherent challenges, which are efficient, effective, and accountable, and even in terms of service delivery. Can the panelists please share their thoughts? Would you like to take this up, Dr. Shah?
I wrote something in the chat session. The bottleneck for PPP is state capacity in contracting. So if you think of a private healthcare provider and you think of a government, like consider Ayushman Bharat, the problems are in procurement, in contract disputes, in contract renegotiation, in getting payments out in time. These things are very difficult. And this is not just about health. This is true of everything. Government of India finds it difficult to buy submarines. Government of India finds it difficult to buy vaccines or testing or whatever. So there's a deeper administrative problem of state capacity in the field of contracting. We need to do lots of research and development on contracting to figure out how to do better on contracting, and health is a great field where there can be the role for contracting, where government is able to intelligently contract with private people and create checks and balances for good behavior by private people, what is called strategic purchasing in the field of healthcare.
In fact, Dr. Ashwani Mahajan also spoke about insurance. Dr. Shah, you have also written about market failures in private healthcare insurance in the past. My question to the panel is, how do we address market failures in private healthcare in insurance? Dr. Shah, would you like to share your thoughts?
Sure. There are a couple of pieces that come to mind. The first is that there needs to be a little bit of development of tort law. Tort law is the concept that if I impose damage on you, then I'm vulnerable to litigation by you. So with all its difficulties, recourse to courts is important. One element, I'm not saying it's the only element, I'm not saying it's the dominant element. One element of creating better behavior by doctors is to increase the rights of patients, so that when medical malpractice happens, there is greater recourse to court. The second is to solve the mess that is the Indian Medical Council, and what is now sought to be done using the NMC bill, and it's a big project. We need to see it through. The third is that I feel we need to do more in terms of the strategic purchasing, that we need more market power in the hands of buyers, whether they are a government like Ayushman Bharat or like many of the state level health insurance programs, or they are private health insurance companies. And finally, there are many, many weaknesses in how IRDA regulates private health insurance, and we need to go after those. So in my mind, these are all very important, practical, short-term paths through which we can make improvements in healthcare.
Right. Ms. Tyagi, if I may ask you, what is the role that better technology, process automation, and better data handling can play in deploying population scale initiatives that address such externalities in the healthcare sector?
See, in my opinion, I think it's not that these initiatives haven't been made in the past, right? And we need to see what will make a difference. And the key thing that you find is that whatever you start, when you start doing things, and I alluded to that earlier, everyone is duplicating those efforts. And I've really seen it. I mean, I have seen it on ground, to even get a list, so if you have a solution, for example, you are implementing, right, with the front end workers, you cannot get, in Ministry of Health, there are 21 verticals and not all of them share one single list of healthcare workers. So in my opinion, I think digital has to simply has to make a level playing field for everyone. And I'm agnostic to public, private, in this case. I think I agree with डॉक्टर शाह, डॉक्टर महाजन, जिसका काम है वो करे, बट द पॉइंट इज वो करने का फायदा क्या है if it doesn't yield results. The impact of it is not compounded and is not being seen in the positive direction. So I think the role of technology, I would say in this case, is we have to ensure that the flow of information, the flow of cash, I think you talked about the insurance companies, and the main thing is that why do they behave that conservatively is because their costs are high, right? They bleed when they sort of, pay out, because they don't have the trust, in the ecosystem. When a claim comes, they don't know whether it is a ghost doctor, ghost, so all that means spending a lot of money in those validations. So the role of digital is to reduce those costs. Like I said, the eKYC. What if a claim now comes down to 10 rupees instead of the current 800? I mean, in health, we talk of insuring people, it is only IPD. What about the OPD where maximum money is getting spent? And how can an insurance company even take up OPD kind of a package if 100 rupees ka dawai wala thing costs him 800 to look at? So I think that's where digital technology, we're talking it as a leveler, which kind of creates a field where everyone doesn't have to duplicate the efforts and they can make the most of whatever efforts they put in. I think that would be my response.
One last question for the panel. Dr. Mahajan, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे?
यहाँ पर मैं बात ये कहना चाहूंगा कि जो मार्केट फेलियर है उसके कई कारण होते हैं. एक तो लैक ऑफ ट्रांसपेरेंसी, लैक ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन, ये सारी कारण रहते हैं किसी भी स्थान पर मार्केट फेलियर के, जो हम पढ़ते पढ़ाते हैं. तो यदि हम इसके बारे में बात करें तो टेक्नोलॉजी कैन बी ए बिग हेल्प, देयर इज नो डाउट अबाउट इट. लेकिन टेक्नोलॉजी किसकी? क्या टेक्नोलॉजी उन लोगों की जो कुछ कंपनियों को फायदा पहुंचाना चाहते हैं, या टेक्नोलॉजी उन लोगों की उस ऐसे प्लेटफॉर्म से जहां किसी का इस प्रकार का एक कमर्शियल इंटरेस्ट इन्वॉल्व नहीं है? तो यहाँ पर एक और दूसरा इंश्योरेंस की बात. इंश्योरेंस के माध्यम से भी बहुत चीजें अच्छी हो सकती हैं, लेकिन इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज के द्वारा किस प्रकार से किया जाता है, और इंश्योरेंस कंपनियों की हमने एक उदाहरण हमने ये भी देखा कि उत्तराखंड में एक इंश्योरेंस कंपनी भाग ली क्योंकि वो लोग पेमेंट नहीं करना चाहते थे. ये भी उदाहरण हमारे सामने प्राइवेट इंश्योरर्स के लिए. इसके अलावा हमने गवर्नमेंट लेवल पर भी काफी चीजें देखी हैं. अभी राजस्थान में आयुष्मान भारत के लिए टेंडर निकाला गया. 1500 करोड़ रुपए का टेंडर था और उन्होंने कहा कि ये कोविड टाइम है तो इसको 3000 करोड़ रुपए का कर दिया, तो उसको 3000 करोड़ कर दिया. तो हमने उसमें इंटरवीन किया तो वो टेंडर कैंसिल हुआ. कहने का अभिप्राय ये है कि क्या पब्लिक मनी को इस प्रकार से स्पेंड किया जा सकता है? तो इसलिए हर जगह पर ठीक प्रकार से ट्रांसपेरेंट सिस्टम बने, टेक्नोलॉजी का सही उपयोग हो, टेक्नोलॉजी कहाँ से लेना है उसके बारे में भी तय हो. और मुझे लगता है कि अभी हाल फिलहाल में जिस प्रकार से एट प्रेजेंट जो वैक्सीनेशन का प्रोग्राम चल रहा है उसमें भी हमने टेक्नोलॉजी का उपयोग किया है ना, और पूरी दुनिया को दिखाया है कि हाँ हम कर सकते हैं. और जो एक कहीं ना कहीं आता है कि भी हम कर ही नहीं सकते हैं, हमने वैक्सीनेशन के केस में करके दिखाया. भारत सुपर पावर है. आज अब पहली बार लोगों को पता चला कि भारत वैक्सीन में सुपर पावर है. हमारे यहाँ 7 बड़ी कंपनियां काम करती है, दुनिया भर के लिए वैक्सीन बनाती हैं, लेकिन लोगों को पता नहीं था. हमारे यहाँ वेंटिलेटर्स बनते हैं और हम यूरोप को सप्लाई करते हैं, लोगों को पता नहीं था. आज आत्मनिर्भर भारत की बात आ रही है. हम टेक्नोलॉजी में भी आत्मनिर्भर बने, हेल्थ केयर में भी बने. जहां हमें मदद लेने की जरूरत है लें, लेकिन अननेसेसरी बिना वजह से हम ये सो कॉल्ड फिलैंथ्रोपिस्ट के चक्कर में ना पड़े. हमने देखा है उन फिलैंथ्रोपिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस का हाल और वो किस प्रकार से काम करती हैं. हमने उनको प्रांतों में भी काम करते हुए देखा है, हमने उनको केंद्र में भी काम करते हुए देखा है, कई जगह पर उनको हटाया भी गया है. तो मेरा ये कहना है कि हम टेक्नोलॉजी का भी उपयोग करें, ट्रांसपेरेंसी भी बढ़ाएं, मार्केट फेलियर्स को हम कर्व करने की कोशिश करें, जहां जहां संभव है प्राइवेट सेक्टर को, एफिशिएंट प्राइवेट सेक्टर को लाएं, लेकिन एट द सेम टाइम रेगुलेशन भी करके दें।
Ji. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm afraid that's all the time that we have today for this panel discussion. Thank you very much for participating in the Scotch Public Policy Forum, the panel discussion on private versus public policy direction for public health. I thank each and every one of the distinguished panelists for their valuable time and extremely valuable inputs and insight. Namaskar or Jai Hind. Dhanyawad.
Thank you.